You're listening to the Getting Salty Experience podcast.
And we are back. Welcome back, Leatherhead Nation, to the Getting Salty Experience podcast. It's the only podcast in the whole wide world that brings the Firehouse Kitchen Table to you. And as Pete and Louie knew, right, it is a self-proclaimed best firefighter podcast in the world. I think Chief Kuhn will he'll agree with us on that. While he's on the show, anyway.
Trademark Rick and Bobby Inc.
So with the kitchen table, as we know, many aspects and dynamics of the kitchen table. A lot of the times it's lighthearted. A lot of time it's a lot of ball breaking. You know, like last week, right? Duty stories, right, Pete? All of that stuff. It's all fun.
Oh my God!
But there are times that the kitchen table can be a learning experience and a sharing of information. And tonight is going to be that, a sharing of information that has not been released as of yet. If it has, to very select few people. So we have the chief on tonight, as we said in the past, that he had these pictures and a firsthand account of a lot of what we didn't even know about, right, Roof? Pete,
absolutely,
the 9/11 Pentagon.
I don't know much about the Pentagon.
No.
I don't know much about it.
Who does, because of the secret nature of it,
Correct.
And obviously the classified nature. And then when we finally got into it at about 9:30, and the last time we had Chief Kuhn on, I was like, hey,
Yeah, right.
we got to have this guy back on, man. It's like, you can't just do a few minutes on the Pentagon, man.
Well, it is true.
Back.
I mean, it is true. When you think of 9/11, unfortunately, the Twin Towers always seems, I don't know, maybe because we're from New York, but that's what I always pops into my head first. Obviously, that does take away from the Pentagon or Pennsylvania or any of that other stuff. But
it dominates the headlines. And the chief brought up a great point. Like you said, that the media had no access to the Pentagon. But right at the Twin Towers, they were all up and in there, right, Chief? Like they had.
Yeah, absolutely. There were security concerns, obviously, there at the Pentagon. So access that the media had was very limited. In fact, probably only military photographers, were allowed there. So, part of our deployment there was to help to maintain that security. And, there were so many layers of it. As we arrived, we were met at gunpoint by the FBI SWAT team, wanting to know why we were there and what we were doing and, what our business was. So, once we cleared that up, we were allowed to go ahead and start to work in the incident. But yeah, absolutely security concerns.
All right, so we're going to go from A to Z from the time that the chief got the call for deployment. But before that, I just want to say hello to Ruffy, fresh off his vacation from Montauk.
Hey, Ruffy, you're looking a little peaked there. What happened to you, buddy?
A little burnt, maybe?
What do you mean, a little lobsterized? Yeah, what's
that? I don't know, man.
I mean, Italian guys, usually don't have to burn up.
I thought you had olive oil skin. What happened?
I do for the most part, but I don't know. It wasn't even sunny out the one day that I fell asleep outside. Don't do that.
It always gets you.
It wasn't extra virgin olive oil.
Wow. It was bad.
There's nothing extra virgin about Refrano. I can tell you that much right now. Forget about the extra virgin. There's nothing virgin about Refrano.
Oh my gosh.
But Pete, we always have to pay the bills, buddy. So why don't you take us out on a new sponsor?
Well, let me just say, I am actually really proud of this. Tonight is one of our first really big new sponsors. So let's take a look at the technology and the spot that Chief 360 sent us. So here we go. Coming in hot, Chief 360. Are your responders slowed down using outdated or unreliable technology? Chief 360 enhances operation with technology products that reduce response times and increase situational awareness. Chief 360 Station Alert is the most affordable and reliable alerting system on the market. Designed with health and cardiac wellness in mind, it uses escalating tones to alert and wake up responders. The system also uses both CAD and tone dispatching to ensure rapid, reliable alerting. Chief 360 Mobile offers an easy-to-use interface to get responders fast and accurate dispatching into the palm of their hands. When every second counts, rely on Chief 360. Check them out now at chief360.com. Again, that is chief360.com.
Wow. Who's the voiceover guy? Maybe we should hire that guy.
You know, actually, it was narrated by Morgan Freeman, and
Really?
we're very lucky to get him on that.
And we were lucky to get him.
We were lucky to get him, and you know, it's he did do the Chief Steve
Holy
song
man.
as well, Morgan Freeman. So
That is pretty cool, actually. I like the thing where it has the escalating tones, where it doesn't, shake you out of your socks in the middle of the night.
Gives you like
and,
one of these. Psst, wake up.
Yeah, wake up. Get out. You know, the biggest thing, the turnout is the biggest thing, Roof, right? You can't make it up on the road.
Can't make it up on the
well,
road.
we just
Quick
want to say thank you to our new sponsor, Chief 360. Guys, check them out at chief360.com.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Kitty.
All right, on
So
to the
let's dive
show.
right into this, Chief, because I don't know that much about it. So I'm
Let's
going to
give a
put my
little timeline,
listening
right,
cap
Kev?
on. Yeah, let's go with a timeline. First of all, welcome back, Chief. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you.
Give us a little timeline where you were on that day, how the whole thing evolved, how you got the call, etc.
Morning
there
at
he is.
7 a.m. and got ready to settle in, take a little nap that morning, and then I got a call around 8. I think my stepdaughter had a flat tire on the entire other side of town, so drove over, changed the tire for her, and so actually by the time I found out about any of the events, it was probably around 10 a.m. When I was driving back home, got a call that some things were going on and that they were going to deploy our task force. So FEMA had kind of leaned forward and notified task forces to respond. So that's how I actually got notified that there was anything going on. Other than that, I had not heard anything up to that point.
Had they filled you in at all about the Trade Center being hit as well and the Pentagon being hit?
Oh yeah, sure. It took, I lived probably, 15, 20 minutes away from our gathering point, I guess, at that time. So as soon as I got home, grabbed my gear, which, at that time stayed packed all the time. So loaded up my gear and went to our gathering place there, and once the team, all got together there, we have as a federal USAR task force, we have a 6-hour window from notification to get out the door. So everybody got there pretty quick, and we received a briefing from our plans officer about the events that had occurred. And
Chief, I want to just interrupt you. I'm sorry to do that, but I want to back one thing up. Just for the uninitiated, for those of us who aren't cool guys like you are, what's in your go bag? What kind of stuff? Like, what's your gear in your particular go bag for this kind of a job?
Oh, well, of course, all of our PPE for doing work on a rubble pile, including, helmets, gloves, eye protection, your heavy
Flashlights, all that stuff. Knee pads.
That's right. Yeah. Flash protection, knee pads, heavy boots, steel-toed boots, the whole thing. So you want to plan on being self-sufficient for at least 10 days anyway.
Wow. And that's all pre-packed for you already. So that all you have to do is get going, right?
Yeah. The uniforms are issued, and everything's packed in, fairly uniform manner so that, when we leave the door, we don't have to worry about, do we have this? Do we have that? Everybody's got it. You bring it and you're ready to go to work when you arrive on, wherever you're deployed.
Don, how many teams were responding at that time?
Oh man, it's either 8 or 10 that they sent to New York City, and then I think 3 or 4. No, I'm sure it's 4 to the Pentagon.
And that was within when? I don't even know. A week, within a week, 2 days, 1 day.
Oh, that was within probably an hour or 2 hours of the initial attack that they were deployed. Now, travel times vary a lot depending on your location in the United States, but there are a total of 28 federal teams across the United States. 11 of those are located in California, but mostly around the eastern seaboard and around the Gulf, because that's where most of our responses have been.
Right. So for guys who don't know, you're in Tennessee. A couple of guys were asking where you were from. So you guys, where's your meetup point?
Yeah, our meetup point at that time was at our training center. Since those days, we built our own warehouse. We have our own warehouse to store all the gear. We keep all our trucks there for travel and all that. So, it takes a couple of 18-wheelers and 3 18-foot bob trucks and a couple of buses and other support vehicles, to support this task force. It's an 80-man task force.
Right. So that's like the one we were doing with Tedeschi, right? Roof down at the sock tools.
It's very similar, yes.
Right. Yeah. New York has a federal.
Well, we were on the task force, Don. We were on the SOC task force. So they have the USAR team for New York. Obviously, a lot of those guys that were doing the SOC task force were with New York. I guess that with the main task force, but this was like a 3-state thing.
Right. Not to interrupt, but normally if the event happens in your backyard, you don't deploy that task force.
Correct.
Because they're going to be working anyway. So
right.
They'll pick the first 3 or 4 closest task forces and send those immediately, and then after assessment, if they need more, they'll send more.
So Chief, I got to ask you, because right off the bat, obviously this may have been I guess it's the Pearl Harbor for our generation, of course, but it really wasn't a beginning of the end of the innocence of the United States. It was such a massive event for us. And I personally went through such a range of emotion just that day alone, let alone the following weeks after, which was dealing with it all. I wasn't anywhere near the scenes that you guys were near. What was your initial feeling? I mean, was it like, you're going to a job, or was it just a mixed up ball of feelings that you were dealing with?
Okay. In 1999, we became part of this federal task force system. We were approved to come in. In fact, Ray Downey was one of the guys who came in and inspected our cache and made sure we had everything we needed to do to be a task force. And, so that was pretty cool.
Downey, I might have heard him. Downey.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
God.
So anyway, we were new guys on the block, so we were all excited about it. We like you say, I had that feeling like we were going to a job and, get to do the work that we had trained so hard, to be task force members and we think, my thought was, hey, we're going to get to really put this to work.
Right.
Right on.
Yeah. Pete, that you say that, I got down to the trade center as the second tower fell. I think that's the closest thing that I can relate to wartime. Like, it felt like wartime. Buildings were down. That's the closest thing, right? I mean, can you say the same thing, Don?
Yeah, sure. We'll get to some pictures there, and you'll see some of the destruction that occurred there at the Pentagon. Yeah. And definitely that feeling. And in fact, after we were there a day or two, they assigned a military chaplain to our task force, and we would brief in the mornings and brief out with him in the afternoons. One of the biggest surprises of this this being our first deployment, to a serious incident like this, was the emotional side of this thing. We were totally prepared, for the physical part and for the knowledge of the skills that we needed to produce, to do that kind of work. But it's the emotional toll that it was taking on the team that kind of was a surprise.
Right.
And I'll tell you a story a little bit later when we get into this about, everybody had their little moment there. And I may have mentioned this on our first time we did the podcast, but it sticks with me. It's as fresh as it was, the day it happened, but it validated everything that we did there. So I'll tell you about that, when we get toward the end.
Okay.
I just want to show one picture here that, plays to your point, Kev, about being a wartime event. As everyone remembers, the scramblers were the jets were scrambled that morning all over the country, and all airspace was cleared. And I hope this is a real photo, but something that I was trolling around and looking around on the web there with a guy, in his F-18 or F-15 looking at the fire raging down below. So pretty gnarly stuff. And the fire was so tremendous. Didn't it take multiple days to get it out, Chief?
Yeah, it took a couple of days, and there was, a huge fire department response there. And I want to give props to those guys that responded there. They did a heck of a job keeping it out of the remainder of the building there. You can imagine.
Who's first to do that? Does the government have their own fire department there?
Yes, in fact, they do. And I think I have a picture in one of those that I sent you. It looks like a little mini control tower at an airport. They had the helicopter pad, when the big shots fly in and out of the Pentagon, they would land right there. So they had an air crash truck right there on scene that actually they put to work right away.
What is like the basic construction of that thing? Is it five buildings like wrapped around each other? Is that what is there like space in between?
Yeah,
the way it looks from the top
rings, that start A, B, C, D, E from the inside to the outside. So that's kind of how we identify where we were.
Petey, put that picture up from the top view.
So
then after you get through those rings, like it looks like where they're connected. Is that the corridors that run through?
Right. There are several corridors. You can see there. The blackened part was where the fire ran the roof line there. From the original fire. So those were roofs over the corridors that go. That you travel from one ring to another. Each ring is 5 stories tall.
And so in between each one there is what? Is it just
no? It steps down to about the second floor, I think, in between, except for the ring between B and C. And there's a drive that you can drive all the way around, to access for maintenance and so on.
And my understanding was, having read some accounts, researching the show, is that the Pentagon was so massive with all these rings and corridors that anyone new there found it very difficult to find themselves anywhere in the building, make their way around on a day-to-day basis. Did you guys have any difficulty on site in the same manner, or was it very specific where you had to be?
Yeah, we were pretty much assigned, a specific area. And, you mentioned the construction there. Those outside walls were about 2 feet thick with unreinforced masonry.
Oh, shit.
And those windows were supposed to be explosion proof. They had wire in the glass, and they were pretty thick layered glass. But those supposedly explosion proof windows got blown out. So pretty huge impact when this thing hit the building there.
So where he hit, go ahead, Coop. No, I'm saying where he hit, it was right on that corridor, it looks like.
Yeah, right there. In fact, that if you look closely, I wish I could point to it, but you see the collapse, and you see just to the right, if you're facing it, just there's an entrance door there. And in our first assignment when we arrived there at the Pentagon was to work underneath the collapse, and clear that area and try to shore it as best we could to do search. So that was our first assignment.
Right. How many levels below does it go, Don?
Oh, man. Not sure. That is the ground floor that you're looking at there, where the shoring starts. So I think in the middle there was a basement and a below ground area with a shopping mall in that area, and access to the subway there, so you could actually ride into the Pentagon on a subway and then come up to the actual Pentagon.
Really? Like, how do you get on that subway?
Good question. I never got to get back there. We were so busy working. So, all of my time was spent, right there in the area you're looking at right there.
Yeah, for sure.
So what's your first impression as you walk up on it, or as you pull up on it? What's the first thoughts that come to
well, you look at it, it's still smoldering. The fire guys are still working on parts of it. Putting out spot fires and doing mop up. But to look at that collapse, to pull up on that, in the very center of our military might is right there, and you see this level of destruction. Was very impressive, and you think how could this happen?
How could they pull it off, right? How could they?
Yeah. How could this happen? And in this very symbol of our military right here that is recognizable anywhere. So it's a little bit of shock, and then you think, okay, what do we do here? What's our priorities? What are we going to do to start to change things here? So. Initially, we made contact with the incident commander. It happened to be from Arlington Fire, who actually maintained command or unified command there, throughout the incident. And you got to remember, this is a federal facility, so every government agency that has initials, FBI, CIA, EPA, everybody, everybody comes.
Some that you never heard of, right? Some you probably never heard of.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was determined that we have to handle this as a crime scene. We had to work it that way. So
that must have been a pain in the ass.
Yeah. But there were a lot of cool things that happened there, and let me start with this. After a day or so, they assigned a company of the old guard to us, and whenever we located human remains, then FBI would come inside then and GPS mark it, and where they were located, and the old guard would go and give the proper respect to take care of the remains and carry them out. So in this case, we didn't have to do that. Normally we do, but this case we didn't have to do that. So all the respect to those guys in the world for the job that they did there. Plus, when we weren't in that recovery mode, then they were used, as they helped the task forces bring in all of those timbers. A lot of the shoring that you'll see in the Pentagon was all, for the most part, 6x6 material.
Yeah.
And you know how heavy that stuff is.
Heavy, man.
Yeah. And so the ceilings in there were like, 14, 16 feet. So all of those columns, there's a lot of wood it takes to replace those columns in there, right, with the cribbing that we used to replace them. And then we did some vertical shoring in between to support the girders and beams in between the columns. So, after a while, we just started calling it the forest inside because there was so much wood in there. But the Department of Defense, they spun up their logistics people, and anything that we wanted or needed, we just say the word, and the next morning it's there.
Wow.
So
I just want to.
It's initially it's a search op with the hope of rescue.
I was just going to ask the same thing. I want to back it up a little. Like, how long, when you first got there, did you have it in your head that maybe you were going to find some people alive? Was that,
Yeah, it's always, we always in a rescue mode when we arrive, and at some point, it depends on the incident. It depends on so many variables, but at some point you transition into recovery mode, and then we do what we have to do to make things as safe as we can to continue with the recovery mode.
And when does that happen? After a couple, 2-3 days? Is that kind of
I think
feeling?
it's longer than that, actually. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it depends, because they've recovered, some live victims after a week or so, or maybe
I
10
see.
days. It just depends on the weather. It depends on the physical condition of the people that were entombed.
Collapse, how everything.
Collapse patterns. It's so many variables. I can't just say, after X number of days, you can't do that. So
Right. For sure.
you
Does the
just have to
person
gauge
have
it.
access to air and water and
Exactly.
so on and so forth? Right.
We thought for a long time, right, Roof, that we were going to find somebody, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of voids there for a while. Yeah.
There were a lot of voids.
And
we thought we were going to find somebody, but
Did you guys personally or work with canines as well, or did that come in?
yeah, absolutely. Part of our task force, we have a canine component, and those dogs are trained both in live and in cadaver location. So, we have that capability. We bring our own doctors, we bring our own engineers to assess the building, give us our best guidance in the type of location of the shoring that we put inside a building. So it's pretty fine tuned as to how we deal with a collapse.
I mean, that's pretty high speed, and I guess that's why it's a specialized unit. Oddly, we were just at the Rock at the training facility for the FDNY, of course, and they have added a canine unit to the FDNY in general, generally speaking now. So it's cool to see that in more use. That's why it kind of was on the top of my mind there.
Right, and that's they certainly earned my respect there, and up until that point, I didn't really, I don't know if they're going to help us or not. We kind of looked at them as long-term deployment food, if possible.
yeah.
But,
You remember?
but it didn't come to that, and they actually, they saved us a lot of work. They
Yeah.
saved us a lot of work.
No, they do actually.
We had one that
Yeah.
night, Ruff. Do you remember when we found our first victim with the
the
dog?
first night. Yeah.
Yeah, she was an Asian lady, right? The dogs got a hit on her, and we just started digging, and we found her. I mean, of course,
they're absolutely worth their weight in gold.
They really are, man.
Again, they save us a lot of work, a lot of physical activity. Getting in there and actually locating, victims for us. So, they're very high on my list now. They didn't used to be, but we learn. We learn.
Did it have if Ruff, you'll attest to this, like a very distinct smell, like the metal burning, the
Sights and smells. Yeah, what was that like?
Because
well, there was still a huge volume of jet fuel inside, even though the fire's out. And where the plane struck was the computer center down there, and all of those computers had lead acid battery backups. So all of those backup batteries were destroyed. They were in huge banks of batteries. And so all of that acid was in the mix with the water and jet fuel and
Nice.
And then the huge amount of debris that was in there. It was just incredible. So, after the outside columns were short, and I'm pretty sure that one of the Virginia teams put up those box cribs on the outside first, and then we came back behind them and put in the rakers on the outside. Then, after we worked our first day, we did 12-hour days there, and which included an hour briefing. So if you're going to start at 7 a.m., you got there at 6 and briefed in, and the offgoing shift would let you know their progress or lack of progress and what we needed next, and then we go to work, and then you work your 12 hours, and then you brief out, and by the time you do all that, and we were billeted at initially at I think it was Annapolis, in a big gymnasium, slept on cots in between. So by the time we got done working, briefed out, got a shower, got something to eat, you had about 5-6 hours sleep, and you get up and do it all over again. So, it was pretty intense, the amount of work there.
So the initial mission was obviously search and rescue.
Right.
And, what happened? So, and you were assigned the old guard, which, for those who don't know, they guard the tomb of the unknown soldier.
Right.
Very special group of individuals.
Yeah, they were
So
wonderful.
as you start to come upon, respectfully, bodies or remains of any sorts, what's the process there, if you don't mind me asking?
No problem at all. You know, first of all, when we encountered human remains, then we would immediately notify the FBI, because remember, at that time we had to treat it like a crime scene. So they came in, took photographs, GPS, the location, all of that stuff, and then they would in turn notify the old guard, who came in, actually package the human remains and respectfully remove those from the building, and in a military manner. So it was very respectfully done. Very impressed with that.
And did that go for everybody on the scene? Because I know we didn't know who was a civilian. We didn't know who was,
until the remains were positively identified, which didn't happen right away.
Mm-hmm.
And they were treated with all the respect that any military person would be.
And was there like an on-site morgue for that type of identification process?
I'm sure they had a temporary morgue.
I'm sorry, Kev. I'm sorry, Louis.
That was the morgue stuff was, they would have a temporary morgue, obviously, initially, but, that was all set up much later. I mean, especially at the Trade Center, all that stuff was, I've said it, I can't say how many times when we've talked about 9/11, if it wasn't for the iron workers, there'd still be stuff there. You know what I'm saying? Like
those guys were incredible.
Did you have iron workers there working with you guys?
And here's a little known fact about that whole situation is immediately before this happened, they were in the process of doing some remodeling there and strengthening those columns inside, especially on the first floor. And most of them had I-beams that were placed right next to the reinforced concrete beams. There was some problem with the quality of concrete. I understand that, some of the columns were cracking and starting to deteriorate. And but this plane that went through there actually wiped out those I-beams as well as the concrete and steel columns. So the rebar in the columns was like 1.5 inch size rebar. It was huge rebar, but it took them out. So
those guys
in order to make it safe for us to go in there and do our search and rescue work, we had to replace those columns, and that's what we did with the 6.
Well, like you said, over time, that's when those guys were really, when you had to move stuff. Like, we could do stuff, but we can't do everything, and you need those guys, whether they were taking steel out or putting steel in. If after you put your columns up and your rakers and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, that's you look at those pictures and there's still cranes and heavy equipment there on scene. That was from that contract that was going on there to reinforce those columns. So they were already on the scene. Normally we have to call for them, and it takes a little while to get them there and working. But we were able to put some of those things to work right away.
When was everything for you guys? Because when we were down at 9/11. We had a lot of private industry, a lot of private people sending whatever you needed, whatever equipment would show
up. The first night, the lighting,
lights,
all the lighting.
Truckloads of shoes, of work boots, of whatever you needed. Now, I assumed everything that you guys got was through the government, right? Nothing could fall up. Right?
Yes, absolutely. There again, the security part of this puzzle,
Yeah, look at that McDonald's set up there.
Now, all right, what you're looking at there is outside the fenced area, where we had our work area over there. This is on another side of the Pentagon. And I got to give a ton of credit to the Salvation Army.
The volunteers were incredible.
American Red Cross that treated us like we were their own children.
Yeah.
And they set up that huge tent. I think you already put a picture up of that huge tent, and provided meals there. They sometimes had speakers come in there, but this was our peace in the middle, our calm in the middle of the storm. You would go in there and get something to eat, and some of the Salvation Army people would come sit at the table with you and talk to you. They were great. They treat us like their own.
And again,
kids.
this has got to be weeks, if not months, to get this set up, right? I mean, we had the same thing.
This was set up probably by the third or fourth day.
Wow! Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we definitely didn't have that.
Yeah, and they had a bunch of local school kids that sent notes, and they pinned them up on that wall behind the speaker there. And I mean, you look at some of that stuff. There was all this, thank you for what you're doing and all that, and gosh, we
didn't have that set up for a long time.
That kind of stuff will get you. And another great thing I thought was wonderful that, in our bus travels back and forth to our billeting in the afternoons and in the mornings, people would line the streets, with flags and all that. And
same with us, yeah.
Very encouraging, man. That just that was special, and that was unforgettable for me. That and it means a lot. So, you guys who get out there and wave the flag, it's worth every minute that you spend out there to really those guys who are doing the work.
It was out in New York just as a regular old citizen who wanted to do something and was told I couldn't do anything. You saw a fire truck, a police car, anything, any service, even EMS, you just stood there and clapped or raised your hand.
People had signs, and as we were going in and out of the zone there, people would just be lined up with flags and signs and cheering you on. It really.
Well, I talked often with my dad when he was here about, how the way things were after World War II, and they came home and they're treated so well. And I thought, if this is anything like what they felt, then that's a huge thank you to us who are out there doing the work every day. So that's, that impressed me a lot that they did that. And the surge of patriotism that came as a result of those events, it's kind of sad, we're starting to lose that now.
I wish we could find that again, without the loss of life. I wish we could find something.
Absolutely.
That patriotism.
Petey, go through, we got some pictures in there. Let's see, the chief can just explain some of the pictures that we have.
Let's throw this one up here. In terms of the wood, you guys had to rebuild sort of the structure of the columns of the building. Why don't you tell us about that?
Right. We obtained copies. We got copies. Excuse me. We got copies of the original plans for when they constructed the Pentagon to begin with. So that's how we came up with our numbering system. You have to keep up with where you are in the building and what columns you're replacing and all that, and have some sort of systematic way of keeping track of that, and also keeping up with the where you're supporting the load that's above it. So we used those plans and renamed those columns after we replaced them with the same designation as they had originally, so that we could track those easily. So once we replaced the column, we'd put a block of wood.
Yeah, we have a picture of that too, Petey.
And identify that column and which task force built that column, in case,
I have that,
we need to come back and identify that. But one funny thing that happened, when we built those steel rakers on the front of the building, we put our task force designation on there, because, we were pretty proud of that.
Something to be proud of. Absolutely.
Yeah,
we were doing that a lot as well. Yeah,
but the FBI notified us within about 5 minutes that that's got to go away. Someone with a long distance camera could have shot a picture of that and identified who was there and what we were doing.
Oh man!
See the TNTF there.
This has got to be pretty early on, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's when they were actually, welding it to the wall there. So anyway, that got obliterated just within a few minutes of the time it was there. So, but anyway, that photograph there just happens to be where it's identified.
Oh, I see it there I didn't see that on the top right there. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, just right below the welder.
I didn't see that.
See the TNTF. That's the Task Force 1.
Oh, cool. I see.
Yeah.
So how long before you're in there? When you're in the search mode, do you come across that you can identify that plane parts, or that it was a plane that actually hit? I mean, we know that it was a plane, but
Yeah. Well, early on,
Just to preface that, I just want to quickly preface that.
get in there, Pete.
So look, I think this was a crazy time. Okay. A lot of us did not know what was going on, and especially about the Pentagon. And that's why this show is so important to us, because we couldn't see the images coming out of there because so much of the information was top secret, down to the construction of the building. You know what I mean?
Right.
So by not seeing stuff immediately, all the tinfoil hat people got to it. And frankly, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm going to put my hand up and say, I even had my doubts that a plane hit it too. I never saw one plane part ever, or any video, right? But then I'm like, come on, get a hold of yourself. And then, of course, all these years I've just been like, yeah, of course a plane hit it. But tell
We have
us
a picture
about,
of that too.
and we
right,
do.
Chief?
We do have an exclusive photo of that.
Well, if you could show the picture of the light standards, the light poles.
Okay, we'll start with that, and then we'll go to the landing gear.
Okay.
For all the conspiracy theorists, and there was actually one in the fans page, today, who actually said something. I said, you know what, dude, watch the show tonight. You'll be surprised.
Yeah, keep stay tuned.
Yeah.
These are light poles that got knocked down by the plane. It was that low to the ground.
Wow.
These are right outside the actual building itself. So
wow, man.
I threw that picture in. You didn't really know what it was until I told you, but now it's pretty significant, right?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Very significant.
So anyway, knocks those
for a
poles
plane
down.
of that size to hit a 5-story building, he's got to be pretty low, right? I mean,
yeah. So anyway, plane knocked those down. Then as we worked our way through, and our method was this: we would go and identify the location of a column, and then clear out all of that debris. And you'll see some pictures of that later. Clean out the debris around them, big enough space where we could start to lay our foundation for the crib stack, and then replace the column, and then clear out and search through the debris that's in between those two that we replaced. And then we just kind of hopscotch over and keep doing that as we worked our way through the building. But this was one of the largest pieces of the plane. This is part of the landing gear on an airplane, and pretty sure they don't have any landing gear on any of the rockets that we have.
Rockets are not. Rockets are not supposed to
I'm
land.
Pretty sure not, but there it is, laying into the debris.
wow,
Absolutely. And so okay, so obviously this is a piece of the landing gear, and for obvious reasons, we're not going to see all the debris you cleared. But Chief, tell us about the debris, if you would. What would happen when you would come upon it, and also with great respect and care to the victims. I know that you did discover remains amongst the debris of the plane. Can you please tell us something about that as well, so we can
I'd be glad to
put an end to this nonsense of
there is a picture there with that big round hole punched out in the access
I'll find
port.
it, sir. I'll find it while you tell us about it.
Okay, well, that's where the plane stopped. Was it punched out a nice round hole in that service quarter between the second and third rings. And if you're in that alley and this is from inside. To the right of there was a lot of the actual airplane, whatever remained of the airplane.
So that's it. That space there that we're looking at.
Yeah,
that's the fan. That's the, like we were talking about earlier. In between.
Okay, past the fan is the access corridor. That's
in between the buildings of the Pentagon. Like the rings. Okay, that's what I was interested in. Yep.
Okay, so this is a view from inside. A lot of the debris has been removed there, but to the right of that hole there was a pretty long chunk of the fuselage, lot of the remains, still in the seats were there that were recovered there. So,
of course,
absolutely no doubt in my mind, this was an airplane there. And
I mean, you saw it with your own eyes, sir. And
yes, sir. And we.
What would you say to? I just have to ask. What? Here's your chance. This is it. You're talking to every, conspiracy theorist that's out there right now.
I don't even want to talk about that. That's ridiculous.
I think we have to, because even within our small community, I had to address it earlier today, and I think it's a fair chance for us, being the only show that's covering this, to put it to rest. I mean, what would you say to somebody who says that to you?
I would say, they weren't there. I was there. They didn't pick up those plane parts. We filled a dumpster in that service corridor full of plane parts, various plane parts. So no doubt in my mind, what the heck would they be doing in there if it wasn't a plane that crashed into that building?
Of
I
course.
don't even want to. It gives it disservice almost. Like
it does.
People just like to talk. If they don't, I mean, listen, that's what goes on in the world.
Yeah, and God bless them.
Ridiculous.
They are certainly welcome to their opinion, but an opinion is certainly something different than an experience.
Yes, sir.
And so I got to change my mind.
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's the greatest thing. And I really,
why even?
I'm sorry to
those people even a freaking platform to even say anything. Who cares what they think?
I've really tried to look seriously at these theories and where they come from. It's beyond my understanding. I don't know. If that was the case, there would be evidence of that.
I mean, for crying out loud, we have video of both planes hitting the Trade Center. So, I mean, what more do you else? People still think that is a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, well, again, that's their opinion, but
what they say about
what we saw and dealt with, and yeah, no doubt about that. I don't think there were any rows of seats inside of a rocket.
No.
How I don't know, I want to get off of that. How long did you actually end up spending, the first time you got there?
Oh my gosh. It seemed like a month, but I think we were only worked there. We accomplished in about 2 weeks what they had planned would take about a month.
Wow.
To do there to shore that. So, I mean, the guys on the task force did such an incredible job. They worked so hard, and with the addition of this manpower addition with the old guard guys, who did a lot of the Sherpa work there, we were able to accomplish some incredible things there, and put up an incredible amount of shoring in a very short time. So, we got to put to work all the, a lot of the tools that we had trained on. We put together, put to work saws and torches and a lot of heavy lifting and moving tools that we had in the cache. So a lot of things that we had just recently trained on and got certified as a task force, we got to put to work right away.
That's what it's all about. You train to use it, right?
Yeah, and really, I'm still part of Tennessee Task Force 1 now. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to keep transferring these skills, to the next generation, because they may use these skills to go and save a life with it. So that's what motivates me to stay around and continue to do that, because, I haven't been around this long and not gain, a lot of knowledge and skills and abilities that are valuable and need to be passed on. So,
you
do that.
The young guys to lift the heavy stuff. You tell them what to do, right? You over there, pick that up, bring it over here. Right?
My back hurts. Get that.
My back's hurting a little bit.
Hey, you got to pick something up every now and then, just to maintain some credibility, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
What was the incident command like over there? Who was in charge, and how did it break down to you guys?
Yeah. So, the USAR task forces were a resource underneath the command of or the unified command of the Arlington Fire Department. So, just like, an operations or division under operations would be, medical or So USAR was a resource that he used to stabilize the building so that we could do the work. So very well organized. And when USAR task forces are deployed, they also deploy an incident management team that we call an IST that comes in and actually helps manage the incident and all the USAR operations while we're in theater. So very well organized, and those guys do an incredible job of keeping us focused and keeping us safe and just taking care of our needs while we're in there doing the work.
I was going to say, Don, so you show up with, and I remember this from the task force myself, the SOC task force. So you show up, you could sustain yourself for whatever it is, X amount of days as a group. And then these guys are going to be the guys who are going to get you what you need after whatever you need to be replaced. When you're working there, they're going to feed you. They're going to start to get all that stuff set up for a long-term mission. Right.
And this one was a little different from the norm in that DOD got involved. Right. And their logistics chain, is so incredibly organized. It's not even funny. Now, I'll give you an example. After we had worked, 3 or 4 days, in that mixture of jet fuel and battery acid, it was about a foot deep in there when we first got there. Finally got it drained out about the 3rd day, but our boots fell apart because the battery acid ate them up.
I remember you said that the last time. Man.
Yeah, so we notified them, that, hey, our boots are falling apart. Next morning, truck shows up, everybody gets new boots. So, any personal need that we had, after a few days, you start running out of clean underwear and socks, and we let that be known. And next day, truck shows up, underwear, socks.
Same thing with us, right? How many
gloves,
18 wheels full of socks and underwear and crazy.
So, but those are essentials. You got to have. You got to feel like getting in there and really doing the work. So as far as that was concerned, we were well cared for, and the Salvation Army and then after a few days, these volunteer groups would come from all over the country and cook out in the parking lot for us. And as long as they made it through the vetting process, through the Defense Department, they were allowed to come in and cook for us. So that was great. And it was good, to come out and see, I guess, see normal people, and get to talk to people outside of the incident who can, tell you, because you don't know what's going on in the rest of the world. When you're in there and you're nose to the grindstone, you really don't know. You're focused on your task and you don't worry about that. But there was one incident. This whole thing, pretty much validated what we do, and I'll tell you why. Every guy that I know of, especially on my task force, had their moment there. I told you that the DOD assigned a chaplain to us, and on out briefings sometimes, I'd be standing at the back of the group, and some of the younger guys, they were getting a little emotional, and so I'm looking around thinking, this ain't getting me, what am I this crusty, or just what's going on? So the very next day, I relieved myself. Sherry Turner was the other rescue team manager working inside, so I handed over my inside work to her and went to lunch. It was about 2:00 in the afternoon. So I came back to our forward base of operations there, and there was a lady going around. At that time, there'd been so many people coming through wanting photo ops and, just politicians and people like that. So she stuck her hand out to me. She said, "Well, I want to thank you." And I said, "Okay, who are you?" She said, "Well, I'm Mrs. Colonel so-and-so, and you guys recovered the remains of my husband yesterday." Oh man, I cried like a baby.
Really?
And she said, "Well, I didn't mean to upset you." And I said, "No, ma'am, you don't understand. You just validated, every bit of time, every bit of effort, all the work that we put in training to do what we do. Mm-hmm. You just made it worthwhile." So that's an emotional thing for me. So I apologize. I lost my composure temporarily, but you just validated this whole thing. So from that moment on, I just kind of, this is worthwhile. And this is why I'm so dedicated to training this next group of rescuers to do what we do.
And these are the military guys, right?
Yeah. This was some of the military. Now, the military was great about, because, this was a lot of their coworkers, several of them lost their life there. And the work that we did to recover their remains, was highly appreciated. I
actually just looked that up, Don, because I wasn't sure of what the number was, to be honest with you. I was a little embarrassed of myself, so I had to actually look it up online.
And I'm the same way, because that
it was. It's we know. I know the numbers for the trade center, but I don't know.
I'm thinking it's around 280 total.
Yeah, so it's. I'm looking here,
but please don't quote me on that.
No, I'm actually have it. I have it.
But
I have it
when you're there, well, you know what it is. You're there giving it your all, and those numbers are they'll come up later, and I may or may not learn them, but. I know that we and everybody, all the task forces there, gave it their all there to do what we did. So, so much respect for that. So much respect for the military, for what they're capable of doing.
So it's 125 people at the Pentagon were killed. That was working independent. That's not including the plane,
and
right? So that's
64 on the plane,
right? So you got 125 in the Pentagon. Of those 125, 70 were civilians, 47 Army employees, 6 Army contractors, 6 Navy employees, 3 Navy contractors, 7 defense intelligence agency employees, and all that other stuff. So,
See, so that lady snuck up on you when you weren't ready for it. She hit you with
that. She just came out of nowhere.
She threw that one in on you, bro. You weren't ready for it.
No, and she, I thought I was crusty until she showed up, and then then I melted into a puddle. So
it
really, I so appreciate it, and I wish I could call her name right now, but. That was a life changer, as well as a lot of things that have happened as a result of some of the things we've done with the task force have certainly been life changing for me, but it's a worthwhile endeavor. It's not for everybody. It's not something the ordinary guy can do. It takes special people, special training, special equipment to do what we do, and not that we want to throw our chest out and say, "Look at us." We want to go and do what it takes, to make a difference in some of these.
How long did the cleanup? Like I remember, kind of like June,
May,
July,
June.
June of 2002.
Yeah, it was
pretty much done.
Yeah, it was less than a year. Mainly what they had to do was come in and rebuild that, part that collapsed, and then come back in and rebuild the columns, to support the rest of the building. But we put a ton of shoring in that building. In fact, we raised it slightly because of the amount of shoring we put in there.
Wow.
So it was pretty incredible. The engineers that we bring with us with the task force, they set up monitors, to monitor the building, whether it shifts side to side or
I remember those guys. Yep.
And so they were constantly being monitored. So by the time we completed our job there, raised it up a little bit.
I got a really important question, Don. In the McDonald's tent, could you get as many Big Macs as you wanted, or there was a limit on Big Macs?
Yeah, actually, but we didn't worry about it at that point. Everything anything you wanted to do, I think several.
Bonsai, I love that. I could have had 4 or 5 Big Macs if I wanted to. Beautiful.
Well,
can't take you anywhere, Kev.
I understand that, and we got guys like that, but working in all that debris and all that, some of the sights and smells, don't feel like eating a lot.
Nope. Yeah.
So
that was the other thing. So I know on the last show you told us briefly that you get a few hours of sleep and go back to your rotation, whatever your time slot was.
right.
What was life like on the pile there? And like just down to the simple things, bathroom, showering, general cleanliness, food. What was your day-to-day like in those conditions? Was it just go, go, go?
Yeah. Well, I think it took about 2 or 3 days, I guess. They set up a decon corridor, as you came out, you deconned your uniforms, your boots and all that stuff. So you didn't take it back to the hotel with you. But there again, the DOD guys, set up a huge bank of porta toilets there on scene, so your sanitation needs were taken care of there on site. And then where we were billeted, after about 4 days, 5 days maybe, they put us up in a hotel because nobody was staying in hotels at that time. Everybody, no travel was going on, so they changed our billeting there. So had a little bit more privacy, a little more quiet time, rather than sleeping in a gymnasium on a cot. But there again, your sleep came at a premium, by the time you took care of everything, and then, get something to eat, shower, and make a phone call home. And,
right.
Then you try to get to sleep. You're still wound up from the events of the day. And so, if you got 5 or 6 hours, you were doing good,
Wow.
and so after a few days, that 5 or 6 hours started feeling really good.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Chief, how was your family? How were they? Super supportive?
And this is probably the first time, or this was our first deployment out the door, and we had, had networked with a lot of the other task forces about, how things go. So CISD was a big thing then among the task forces. And so one thing they did that I thought was great is they put together some counselors, and they called all the families in. They had a huge meeting and said, well, here's what the guys are going through. Here's what they're facing. Here's some of the things or some of the behaviors they may display when you come home. And some are problematic, some are not, and it kind of prepared
really
them prepared them for what, what we may,
right.
the effect that it may have on us. And then, they also did a couple of debriefings for the entire task force, and certainly offered private counseling for everyone. So I thought that was great for them to do that. It kind of prepared everybody, for
That's certainly forward thinking. Absolutely, man.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And that has become a regular practice now,
Wow.
on a working deployment, that they do that. And even those that we go, like for hurricanes, we get deployed for those and do some wide area search. They're pretty good about keeping the families informed on what's going on and where we are and what we're doing. There again, some things they could or couldn't tell them, because of the security concerns. And,
Sure.
We certainly understand that. But it's funny, my stepdaughter I think she was about 10 then, so when we get home, they had a big, welcome home thing there, when the buses got back and everybody's family was there. That was great. And so we get home, things kind of settled down. I settled into my chair for the first time a couple of weeks. And she sat in my lap and she said, are you all right? Yeah, I'm glad to be home. Glad to see you all. And she said, well, she said, the lady said y'all might be psycho.
Oh my God.
You ain't lying.
I said, did she really say that, or is that your interpretation? She said, well, that may be my word.
Right, it's about right.
Yeah.
So I said, well, that remains to be seen, I guess. But
Yeah.
I thought that was great. But that was truly, honestly, and that's a good thing, and it's really has to be considered. And in fact, we lost a couple of task force members after that deployment because they just said, I just can't do it.
Really?
So,
What a shame.
there again, and that's fine. They're self-aware enough
Yeah.
know that, yeah, this is a good thing, but no, I can't do it. And and that's okay. I don't think less of the guys for that, but there's there is that psychological side of what we do that, it's tough to do that work, and it's tough to
not get affected.
if you let the stuff accumulate on you, then it gets to be problematic. But if you address it on the front end,
Right.
you acknowledge it, and then admit it. Well, this bothered me, and that didn't bother me, and this,
Right.
and just be honest about it. Then you can make it through it.
Well done.
You can only file so much away, right? You can only put so much.
That's right. And then the file collapses, and
9/11 changed that for at least what I saw in my career. That nobody talked about anything before 9/11. After 9/11, I've seen it going by in the chat here a little bit. Guys saying, all of a sudden it was, the counseling unit and getting, some help if you need it. That was the first time it really started to come out. If you wanted that. Before that, it was never talked about.
Yeah.
Ever.
Well, I came up through the macho side of the house.
Man, I was just
talking about stuff. But you know what?
Man.
I was so blessed to work with guys who, after every good worker that we had, we'd come back and sit around the table, put on a couple of pots of coffee, and talk about what you did, what I did.
Yeah, you have to do that. Yeah.
How can you hone this the next time
that was the best part.
out? So that's I was so blessed to come up with guys like that. So we regularly unloaded the stuff that bothered us. So it just became part of what we did.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing how that it transcends through all fire departments' roof? Like we used to do that too, right? You go back to the kitchen table, put on.
You had to do that.
Yeah.
Where'd you do? Where'd you go?
Yeah, I don't know
better?
if it happens a lot around here anymore, though. I think it's a shame. I think they're missing out on a lot of opportunity there. But I was so blessed to come up under that sort of leadership.
Yeah, hey, Don, let me ask you. We all know that 9/11 related deaths, cancer, all of that, from the Trade Center. Has there been any of that down from the Pentagon where guys have gotten sick afterwards?
I think so, and fortunately, the Zadroga Act does cover those who responded to the Pentagon and to the crash up in Pennsylvania. So if that's the case, then I think we're covered there. But yeah, there certainly was plenty of unknowns there that we dealt with.
Sure.
If you'll notice in some of those pictures, we're in Tyvek, and we worked in Tyvek suits. The first day or two we were there, and unfortunately, they made the old guard guys stay in them for the duration. And they were so hot, but they determined after about 3 days it was okay for us to work in our regular uniform. With our helmets, eye protection, gloves, and boots. We were good. So, but yeah, that's what we worked in the first few days there.
That's going to be hot.
Yeah. Respirators, certainly. Yeah.
Essentially, those are like mop suits in the military, like a chemical.
These were some not exactly mop suits. These were Tyvek.
Okay, and so what are these essentially protecting against?
Well, we didn't know at that time, so we put on as much protection as we thought was appropriate. Remember, the EPA was there, so they were doing monitoring and determining PPE requirements and all that. So, we followed their guidance there.
We had all that acid too. That came. You had to have something on you to protect yourself, I guess.
What again? I'm sorry.
You had all the acid. That you were dealing with.
Yeah, and that certainly was a concern. Certainly, when it made our boots fall apart, we're thinking, we should do something about that.
Yeah, you might. But toenails are burning off. All of a sudden, you're like, oh shit.
Sure.
Just call me Nubby.
We always try to lean forward and err on the side of protection as opposed to not. So. We had a lot of people looking after us there, so.
Had a lot of people looking, period.
Kev, where are we in the timeline overall? Like, I know we obviously did our search. We obviously did our collapse maintenance, right? There's other shots of you guys here in the bucket, clearing debris, as we
Right.
say.
Once the remaining building was stabilized, through all the shoring and all that, then the task of delayering the collapse there. So they had that machine that you're looking at right there called the T-Rex.
Yeah, we had those too. Yep, the grappler.
Yeah, they would go layer by layer and kind of chew the concrete off, and we recovered. I'm thinking 5 maybe different human remains there in the actual collapse there, as a result of them going layer by layer. Because it was pretty much a pancake type collapse on itself there.
It's funny, Don, just to say a quick thing, because when you saw that grappler, just reminded me of something. I think I've said this before on the podcast. Anytime I hear a rig backing up, where you hear that beeping sound,
right?
That brings me a little bit back to 9/11, because those grapplers would go in, they would, like you said, they would chew on it, they would pull a piece off. Like, it was incredible. They could pull steel.
It's unbelievable.
Make it look like they would cut it off and make it look like it was a piece of cheese, and then they would back up and dump it and then go back, and you would hear that beeping nonstop when you were at the site,
Yeah.
And that's one sound that makes me reminds
brings
me
back
of,
to remembrance.
yeah,
right?
sometimes, and not always, but most of the time I would say it does bring me back.
Right. Well, you can see, we took a torch up there, and we're leaning out of the basket and taking off those, what we call a widowmaker. It's big chunks of concrete that are being held on by the rebar. Mm-hmm. So we would cut the rebar and free those pieces so they wouldn't free themselves,
Later,
on their own
hit
and
somebody,
fall down and hit somebody.
Yeah.
So we cleaned those off all the edges there from that man basket, because there was no other access, and the building was too compromised for us to work, from the floor level up there.
Right. Let me ask you something. I'll see if Ruffy remembers this. Do you remember the night that we went into the hotel underneath with Lieutenant Belisari? We were going to do a search, right? Did you find any places amidst all the collapse that was like pristine, that was not touched, that there was like an office or something? Because we did a search in the hotel, and we wound up crawling underneath, and we came up into a huge void that was a bar, and it was perfectly intact, man. I mean, except for the dust.
It looked like it was there. It just looked old because it had dust on everything, inches of dust. So it just looked like this old, like crazy. People had just left there. Like, drink was still on the bar, right? And it was as they left, that second,
Was there any of that there, Don? Like offices that were intact?
Yeah, from second floor on up, pretty much. There's certainly some smoke damage from the fire, but the plane crashed in the outside wall and went in a ways and bounced up and punched up the second floor from below, and which made for some pretty difficult shoring opportunities there. And then it came back down and slid back out and punched that nice round hole out in the service corridor. So
actually,
it traveled through there. It took out some, I think 39 columns, something like that, that we replaced through there. A lot of those were reinforced already with the steel I-beams. It just took them right out.
If you guys look closely here, and I know it's a little blurry, but if you search around, there are photos that I've seen, and I'm looking on this upper left-hand quadrant here. You still see a relatively well put together office. It almost looks like a photocopier or like a, you know what I mean, like a what's it called, a little desk
little
or something.
Or something.
Yeah. A little fax or something like there. So
a little podium. In fact, a little further back, and I took a picture of it. I couldn't find it. There was a little podium with a big Bible open there, and one of the legs was hanging out in the space there, but it sat there, and I kept meaning to go up and try to find that and see where it was open to, but I never got the opportunity.
What page was it open to?
Yeah, no telling, but weird things like that happened there. That to me was pretty weird. We actually found a copy of the Quran right at the base of that collapse right there.
Oh, really?
tip of the orange ladder is right there.
Yeah.
Down below there, found a copy of the Quran in Arabic.
Oof, that's weird.
Yeah, that's really weird. But,
It could have been with any of the hijackers who were also obviously suicided. So
yeah, I don't know. I
makes a lot of
don't know. I just thought I found it really weird. But it was collected by FBI guys, I think.
maybe for fingerprints.
But yeah, a lot of really weird stuff. There's more, but we'll talk offline about that.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, hey, one of the most inspiring things there, as well as the visit from the colonel's wife, was when the Arlington fire guys came and hung that flag on the front of the.
I was just going to say that, Don. I was just going to bring that up because I was looking at this picture, and I just said, because we had that hung up, I think, obviously the picture from the Trade Center with the guys putting it up, that was from the yacht. But when when the guys put up a big flag like that right across,
across the street,
that was,
yeah, it was always inspiring to come to work in the morning, see that, or you come out, for a meal and head back in, see that,
Same.
It just reminded us, why are we here, and there's purpose to this. So, props to the Arlington guys for putting that up.
Yeah, great move, man. Really.
Wow, man.
We need more of that, brother.
Yeah.
That's what we need today. We really need more of that today.
Yeah, I strongly encourage that. It's just, I think we're losing some of that, and I think it's a shame that.
Well, we got to take it back, starting here, Don. Right here.
I'm with you, man.
And this family right here, all these leatherheads, we got to bring back, make it grow.
Well, that's one thing I like about it. The amount of support that you guys give to the fire service, and not only in your home area but across the United States. It's really encouraging, to hear that, you understand and you appreciate what guys are doing, because we're all doing the same job. We're all taking the same risk out there, and that's admirable. It's respectable, and certainly it doesn't get enough thanks.
Thank you, Chief.
So I think you guys go a long ways toward trying to restore that and that mindset in the fire service.
Absolutely. Love it. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yes,
Freddie was right. Freddie was right about this guy. Holy mackerel.
Did you see? Did you see what the chief said on the fan page there the other day? I saw when I was.
No, I didn't see it. What was it?
Yeah. So Petey wrote something about the the guy, the chat guy, or whatever that whatever the heck that thing is in the chat. The guy was spamming.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the chief wrote something like, if you need me, I'll take care of that. I know a guy, or something like that.
And then cue Godfather theme song in the background with the violin.
That's it.
Yeah, for real.
Oh yeah.
It's good to have this community. It really is, and we really appreciate you coming on to tell the full story. One kind of thing to kind of close it out a little bit, Chief. We're coming up on 20 years now. What's your time been since the lessons learned, and also do you think about those days often, and what do you think about when you think about them?
Well, the first thing that really comes to mind is the guys that we took with us, our guys and ladies that we took with us to the Pentagon, and the amount of effort and the amount of dedication they displayed there. The good old-fashioned hard work that went into what we did there made a difference, and we accomplished in half the time what they had anticipated that it would take for us to do what we did. And that is directly due to the amount of work that they put in there. Now, remember, we were not the only task force there. There were 4 others, so two task forces worked in the daytime, 2 worked at night. So it was continuous operation while we were there. And it's just the respect that was earned between the brotherhood there still remains, and that's something I have and nobody can take away, and I have tremendous respect for that. So that's what comes to mind there. The work itself, the carnage we witnessed, all that stuff takes a second seat to all of that. To the good stuff. So there again, we were able to unload a lot of the ugly, and we held on to the good stuff, and that's what makes it a positive experience for me.
Amen, Chief.
And also remember, you're just hearing a story from one guy. I'm sure everyone who responded there has their perspective, their story. But I just want to acknowledge that everybody gave some there.
I was just going to say that, Chief. I mean, that would be like me trying to explain what happened at the Trade Center when there were thousands and thousands and thousands of people there working, right? And we appreciate you saying that, because in the end, we just want to have one little look into your life just to get a feeling of what you saw, the same way people want to know what I saw, the same way people want to know what Coop saw, whatever it is. It's just a little, maybe you saw something a little different, or you reacted a little different, or whatever it was. But in the end, you guys all work together to come out with the outcome, the best outcome that could possibly happen there, right?
Absolutely.
To give people closure, right?
That and that's what this part of that validation was. Yes, it is valuable, even though we weren't able to make a live find. We gave a lot of people closure that would not have had it. So that certainly worthwhile and is valuable to that family that lost a member. So yes, absolutely, it's worth it.
Yeah. We are, cops, firemen. I don't care what they say. We are modern day heroes. We do it every day for nothing. We would do it. A lot of guys volunteer for nothing.
Doing it for nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. So, we talk about this spirit of pride of being American. Why can't that start here? This is a grassroots movement. This is people of the same mentality, all in the same way of thinking. Go out and tell somebody tomorrow, about being a patriot. Go tell them to come watch this show. 17,000, whatever it is, people watching, make it 17 million. Get these people all, we're not going to let these people take our country from us. We're not going to let them take it away from us. So let's go. Let's move this. Let's make this big. Let's make this family grow, because we're all like-minded.
Yeah. And I'm 100% behind that. And you guys have initiated a great platform to make that happen. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep getting these stories from guys who have been out there, done the job, or still doing the job, and get them to share their experience, because, a lot of these experiences are common experiences, but by sharing them, we further that brotherhood and trust and belief in each other. And so that's a good thing. And I applaud you guys for doing what you're doing. And if things keep going, I think you'll get to that 70 million. I hope you do.
I'll have a beard down to my knees when that happens.
Oh, yeah.
Coop, you're doing a great job.
Great job. What's the word of the day again?
Oh my God! He's falling asleep more than he does now.
Thank you guys so much.
I fell asleep in a while.
Share some.
No, you haven't. Yeah.
Thank you so much, at least for coming on here to talk about something that is just rarely ever discussed. And we felt like this was a real gem. And you being connected to the show, it was a nice fit. So we really appreciate you. And I know it's a difficult thing to talk about and all that, but people need to hear about it. Why let this go into the annals of history without any discussion, and
sure. The opportunity to come on here and share my perspective, I certainly appreciate that. And certainly not, I don't intend to start any controversy with any other theorists or whatever they have. I know what my experience has been, and I'll just leave it at that. So thank you for this opportunity, man. I wish we had, hours more, and I had tons more pictures. I just picked out a few that I thought were significant, and would give you a snapshot of what we experienced there and saw there.
I can honestly say, Chief, I'm better off for having met you, no doubt.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All of us are, man.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, blame Freddie if it's not positive.
I'm not saying
that guy. I ain't saying nothing, Freddie. I ain't saying
not a word.
I got a guy.
Not a word.
Ruffy, what do you got?
I got sunburn. That's what I got. I got sunburn.
What do you got?
I saw guys, since I've been on vacation, I'm kind of out of the loop, but guys had been mentioning something about a line of duty death somewhere in Maryland. Is that what's happening?
Captain Joshua Laird, I think, was a line of duty death. Somebody said that in the chat. I didn't know about that.
Company 25, Frederick County, Maryland.
Line of duty death, bro. Yes, let's give him the 5 bells today? For line of duty death. That's what they said today. So I'm going to give him the 5 bells. Once again, Captain Joshua Laird. Rest in peace, brother.
Amen.
Indeed. And to, you know what? And to all the, I know we talk about this all the time, but to everyone who lost their lives on 9/11, you're never forgotten. None of you. Whether it be the people who served there, who ran into those buildings, or folks like you, Chief, not that you lost your life, obviously, or anything like that, but, you know, we haven't forgotten the people who are alive, who've helped us there, or the people who perished there. So you're always with us in all our hearts. So,
I got also one more shout out, Pete. We had done on the Cup of Joe and Fuego a thing about Stockton fire. It looks like last week Truck 4 was struck by a car, causing the Tillerman to be ejected, and the tiller box was actually sheared off. So if we could please send out a shout out for fireman Dan LaRock. Dan is a 21-year fire service member.
Shit.
Yep. A husband and father of one. Dan suffered a broken femur, multiple rib fractures, multiple vertebrae fractures, and a ruptured spleen.
Jeez.
Is there is some kind of fund? I can't find it here. If we can find it, Pete, did you have it?
No, sir.
All right, so just Google or something. It's fundthefirst.com campaign / Dan LaRock Recovery Fund. So, guys, go check that out if you would. I appreciate it. All right, so that's it. Again, Chief, like I said, it was a pleasure meeting you. We'll probably have you back on again. I cannot. How could you not have that mustache?
You got the stash. I mean, the guy's got the stash.
It's like, oh, yeah, brother. Let me tell you something, Mean Gene.
With these 23-inch pythons,
24-inch pythons, brother. He was definitely eating his vitamins and saying his prayers, Chief Duncan.
Hey, Chief, was that your wife? Is it Ashley? Is that who was in the chat? Is that your daughter? Who is that? I saw some.
Oh, that's his wife. She was. She was.
Oh yeah, that's Renee.
She was very proud of you, brother. What's not to be proud of? Look at you.
She said epic stash.
Epic stash.
Ashley Kuhn. There you go.
Oh, Ashley, that's my daughter.
Ashley Kuhn. All right, there you go. She's in there too.
When you used to tell her to make her bed, were you like, "Let me tell you something, Ashley. Make your bed. You got to make that bed when you get up in the morning and before you go to bed at night, and do it again."
Sounds like you've been talking to her.
Oh shoot, man! Good.
Make sure you got those military quarters on there, Ashley. Let me tell you something.
I better be able to bounce a quarter off this, Ashley. Oh yeah!
Ashley's one of the few people that actually get my jokes.
Yeah.
Well, so do we. Come tell them again.
All right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, we got some really good shows because I have. Look at this little date book.
Oh, he's got a little date book.
Oh my goodness, who do we got coming on? We got Chief Bob Hoff from Chicago coming up Thursday, the 2nd of September.
And who is he, Kev, for the uninitiated?
You'll see. Google him. Google him.
Punch it up in the Google.
I gotta say one thing. This is the guy they based Backdraft off.
Allegedly, is what
allegedly.
they said. Yes.
Allegedly, he is bull.
The 23rd, we got Hank and Heavy D doing a back to basics on Monday, the 23rd. We got Chief Salka. I don't have him booked in for a date yet, but we got a lot of good shows coming up.
Man, it's gonna be great.
Yep. And we also, get this, bro, in October, we got Bobby Galleone and Ragu coming on together.
Let go.
A little Rescue 2 family reunion. How do you like that?
Oh my!
We're gonna have some pizza. We're gonna hang out.
Pizza.
Hey, we need that.
Yep.
We need that, and there'll be a lot of a lot of talking with our hands.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
My
Not like,
All right.
not like Governor Cuomo talking with your hands.
No, don't say it. Well, don't
That's
say
You're in
it,
a good mood the whole time.
bro.
You gotta kill it.
Don't be a downer.
No, that's a happy moment.
Oh, it's a happy moment. That's true.
Yeah.
That's a happy moment.
It
For
is.
Petey,
All right.
that's a happy moment.
Thrilling.
Thrilling. All right, take it up, Petey Kid.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, if you are watching this here on YouTube, you should also be listening, liking, subscribing, sharing on iTunes Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever fine audio podcasts are found. Listen to us in the gym. Listen to us in your car. Listen to us when you're out on a date with your old lady. I don't know, but we're a lot of fun even in your ear. Also, guys, if you are here on youtube.com/getting salty experience, hit that like, subscribe, and share button. That's the number one thing that gets us out there. And the more of us out there, the more we can provide. Make this my full-time job, because pretty soon, brother, I'm going to be training people in the gym, and it's going to be a bunch of old ladies on a treadmill. But why not? I'm going to get them pumped up. I'm going to get them ready to go. Yeah, exactly. And before I do all that, I'd really love to stick to producing this show full-time, all day, all night. And guys, head on over to Instagram @Salty Dog Inc., where you will find us. And Mr. Refrano posting the finest, saltiest fire photos. Really cool stuff in there. He really digs deep. And there's some last-minute info on the show there. Guys, also getting saltyapparel.com, where you will find hats, T-shirts, mugs and tumblers, all these wonderful firefighter apparel and accessories. So if you want to support us and support the show, head on over to gettingsaltyapparel.com. Guys, also support us at the Super Chat. Thanks to everybody who's been hitting us up lately. Man, it has been super helpful, super kind. We really appreciate it. Thank you there. Guys, last but not least, Facebook. If you're on there, say hi to Mark Zuckerberg for us, and then also head on over to the Getting Salty Fans page, where you will find all the shenanigans that go on, and every single time there's an announcement for the show, I post there personally. So all the little details will be sorted before every show, and it goes up there first. So head on there. And if you guys have a question for the show, shoot it to gettingsaltyexperience@gmail.com, where Lou is eagerly awaiting all of your guest suggestions for the show. The guy can't wait to read.
He loves that.
Loves it night and day. Shoot him there. And last is Coos.
Send them.
Podcast@gmail.com for our Cup of Joe and Fuego show, which will make its triumphant return next week. Helmet cam videos, tattoos of fire stuff, fire photos, father-son, father-daughter
Kitchen table,
photos,
rigs, all your yards.
Send them all in so we can show them off on our fire news show, our weekly fire news show. And that, my friends, is all the news that's fit.
One more thing. I don't know if you saw Chief Kleehouse and Mrs. Kleehouse in the chat tonight. We're coming for you, brother. Chief Kleehouse, we're going to get you on the show. The 24-inch pythons, we'll bring you on the show, brother.
You know what? I think I figured something out.
What?
Now that we have access to Mama Kleehouse, a way to a man's heart is through, I don't know, the wife or something.
I'm friends with Mrs. Kleehouse on Facebook.
Oh my God! Because once we turn Mrs. Kleehouse, to our side,
Right.
he may be the head of the house, but she's the neck.
She's the neck that turns the head.
That turns the heads. We're getting dirty.
All right. Otherwise, we'll see you on Monday, guys. Chief, thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
man.
Awesome show.
Thanks.
Excellent.
Honored to be on your show, guys. I appreciate you.
It's an honor to have you, sir.
I'm going to tell Freddie you did a great job. Don't worry about it.
Again,
Forget about it.
Freddie did not embarrass you.
All right, fellas, do me a favor. Stay low and go.
All right, everyone. We'll see you at the big one. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Cheers, brothers.